Hey everybody, Todd Caputo here. How you doing? I want to welcome everybody. This is the first time we've done this before, and I picked probably one of the smartest guys I've met in a long time to do a product demo with. Tom Vullo from Buffalo, an upstate New Yorker like me. The reason for doing this, Tom, and you and I talked about this before. We got on stage here was, at NADA or any of the other trade shows, it's really difficult sometimes to get to all the booths, see all the people. For some of the vendors, especially startups like you, I don't even think you had a booth, right?
Right. Yeah. We were just hanging out, walking around.
Yeah, so you're hanging out, walking around, and a lot of it in this business, especially word of mouth, the car business community, as we know, it's really not all that big. At the end of the day, we all kind of know each other. So the reason for me wanting to do this series of quote unquote product demos with vendors was because of the fact that I wanted vendors to be able to get out in front of of dealers and be able to show their product off. And for dealers, when you're at NADA or you go to other trade shows, it's difficult to get to every single booth or talk to everybody that you want to talk to. It's really, really hard to do. And I know that as a dealer for 30 years, I always had stacks of business cards of people that I want to follow up with afterwards. Or sometimes I would end up at a booth and all of a sudden you look at your phone or your watch and you're like, wow, I've been here for an hour and a half and I missed these four of the people that I wanted to talk to, and the show's over with. And then trying to get back in touch with somebody once you get back to the dealership is next to impossible. So that's why we came up with this idea. And I wanted to do the first show with Tom for a couple of reasons. Number one, he demoed his product with me a few months ago, and I was really impressed by it. I thought it was pretty awesome, actually. Number one, and number two, he's from upstate New York, and I'm an upstate New York guy, and we're an interesting breed. We know how to deal with the snow and the cold, and sometimes difficult customers that are very, very astute, in my opinion, especially in that market up there. So, I want to welcome Tom, and Tom, tell the audience, really a little bit about you and your background, how you got in the car business, and how you got to where you are now, offering this amazing product.
Right. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Todd, and thanks for having me and being the first of this great series. And it's been great to really get to know you. You've done so much in this automotive space. I've done very little compared to you, so thanks for having me.
I got in.
I was on the retail side for 11 years. Got involved early on, always in finance. So I never sold cars. I have a degree in finance from University of Buffalo. So I went a different path than most people. I have an insurance background. Did benefits for companies. That's how I got involved with my group. I was trying to get the group. I was trying to get their benefits, believe it or not. And then they got me to do finance instead. And it was a good decision.
You went straight to F&I. You never sold cars on the floor?
Never sold cars on the floor. Walked into F&I.
Okay.
My first day, I go to a group meeting, and the group director is talking about numbers, and I'm writing down, PVR ? PPD ? VSE ? I'm like, what the hell does this mean?
And who was the first group that you worked for?
I worked for West Terra Automotive Group.
So you went straight to West Terra. You went right to the big dog in New York State and Buffalo.
That was it. Yeah. Worked at their Toyota store. Did finance there, then became the finance director there. Then did a lot of training for the group. Ended up being a group level director, trainer. So I got involved in doing all the finance training, involved in the hiring.
And you worked probably under one of the best dealers that I know of. Scott Beeler is amazing, right? He's built one hell of a business. Not only has he built a great business, but he's also does a lot for the community in Buffalo. He really is. He's just a sharp guy, and I have all the respect in the world for him. And the fact that you were able to go jump straight into F&I and work for him for how many years? You said 11 years.
Almost 11 years before I went off and went on this venture. And it was a great experience, great people. Was able to share some good practices and develop a lot of good practices there. But I was always in finance. Never, I was offered to do different positions, and it wasn't for me. I really enjoyed helping people get loans and trying to figure out a way how to do that. So I was really consumer focused, and the team I worked with, 40 stores, just had a good group of people that also cared about people.
Yeah.
in our philosophy always was, it's more than just one deal, right?
Absolutely.
You got to set them up, go a little extra, try to get the loan a little better than you think you can. Don't take that first green arrow. So I did a lot of bank training and lender training and compliance training. I think it's really important to do that. If you can't get a deal bought, it doesn't matter if you can sell product.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what inspired you to come up and really, be the founder of the company? So it's called Select F&I, right?
Right. Yeah. Select Fi. And the whole idea was, it's tough when you quote payments too high or too low. It's a problem. And industry wide, it's all over the board when we are quoting payments, because we have different data from different people. So the idea was, it was supposed to be a finance product, not consumer facing. But the problem, Todd, is if it never makes it to finance, it's irrelevant. So I wanted to come up a way to have no friction to the customer, but have the dealership really control the way that the payment's quoted in an accurate, compliant way. And that's why we program every lender that the dealership will have. And that was the beginning. It was a need. I was at a dealership one day, and it was just a fight between the GM and the finance manager. So I'd meet with the finance manager, ask how things are. The desk is terrible. They don't know how to quote payments. Everything comes back at buyer rate, over advanced. Then I go meet with the GM. Hey, how's it going? Finance manager makes too much money. All he does is complain about everything. Never can get a deal approved. And I said, well, what is the process that we have here? And even if you have a defined written process, it's very difficult to hear by a written process, because there's a lot of variables. And we don't want to offend the customer, right? We don't want to be an interrogation. You want to just ask them a couple questions. So I said, how can I ask them the least amount, get the most data, keep it simple? And it was all about automation and technology. And luckily,
it's important too. Like, we're going to get into the product demo in a couple minutes, but when I own my dealerships, when I talk to the people that I worked with and my people in sales and my F&I managers and everybody else, I'm like, you got to put yourself in the customer's shoes. They walk into the dealership, and in most cases, they're scared to death, right? They're freaked out, right? But they need to be qualified. People need to be qualified properly when they come into a dealership if they are going to be financing. Because if you don't do it properly and you don't do it politely, it could just really make for a terrible experience for a consumer. It's not transparent. The trust does not get built. And in a lot of cases, you can show somebody a car that they can't afford, right? Which is, number one, really a waste of everybody's time. But more importantly, it just makes you look foolish. But on the other hand, consumers are also very apprehensive in a lot of cases to give up any personal information when they first want to walk into a dealership, especially if they've never done business there before. If they know the salesman or they know the store and they've done business there, it's a different story if they bought multiple cars there. But if there's someone fresh that's just coming in, which is most of them, the process of qualifying is super important. And also, if someone's properly qualified, they're shown the proper car, and they end up choosing to buy the right car that they can probably get approved on, I think it makes the transition a lot easier when they're talking to an F&I manager, for sure.
I was all about having finance get out as quick as possible, and that was the premise. I wanted them to know the most about structuring deals and lending capabilities. Problem is, they were so late in the process. I wanted to take some of that knowledge and put it forward. I mean, it would happen all the time, Todd. I would go to these stores and I'd want to work with the finance manager. And the first thing I would do was a lot walk. So I'd show up, go in their office, and bring them outside. Let's go walk around the parking lot. Just, how's your life? How's your family? Relax, get them in a good frame of mind. I cannot tell you how many people I would engage in the parking lot that weren't coming into the store, that were just looking at vehicles, and they wanted to potentially get payments and buy. There was a big percentage that just didn't come in. And a lot of them were, that I have a credit union, I kind of have an idea of where I'm going to be. And that is not always the best way to go either. That can be a problem. Some folks think they're going to get the full amount financed, and they can't. They take a buyer's order or take a picture of the window sticker from the lot, go to the credit union, and they're not approved because they don't understand the process of the value of that car is versus what the loan amount is, because the guidelines are so different. And they have lower rates, but they have lower risk. That's why going to the dealership is the best way, and that's why I wanted it still to be dealership facing and not consumer facing.
Makes sense. Well, why don't we do this? Let's get into the demo, right? Let's do that. Why don't you pull your PowerPoint up, and I'll get it up on the screen, and we can get started.
Great. Can you see it now?
I got it. Here we go.
I got to tell you, that's a good picture. I found it online. I was very impressed.
Photoshop helps me. Let's put it that way. Especially when you're 52 and have been in the car business since you were born. So thanks a lot for the compliment. I appreciate it.
Good.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So again, like the whole idea of doing this is right. I'm a dealer. I could own a single point dealership. I could own a group, or I'm a general manager. And the whole idea is here to pitch me, right? I'm not going to throw you softballs. You're not paying me to be here. I'm not paying you. This is strictly just to educate, the dealer public about, what your product can do. So I'll ask you questions like I normally would if you're a vendor walking into my office, or if I was at NADA at your booth.
Great. And the first thing I always ask is, what's your current process to quote payments? And I will tell you, every time the dealer principal have a process, then I'll go to the sales manager and ask them. Then I'll go to the finance manager, then the salesperson, and everyone tells me a different process.
I believe it. And it depends too. It depends, because John, he's been here for 30 years, and I can give him payments like this. I can give him a range. And Tim, he's a new guy. He just started a month ago, and we don't do that with him. So yeah, I totally get it. It makes sense to me, and it's common. Anybody that doesn't admit that is just probably lying.
And then, how current are you in the lending environment? We've had more changes in the last 8 months in lending than probably the last 10 years combined. It's not just rates quadrupling, it's guidelines and policies. And that's a big factor in getting that loan approval. So I'll do this with you. I'll put you on the spot if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right. Prime case study. This is the person's bureaus. The TU is going to be 741, Equifax 653, Experian 683. Right?
Yep. Happens all the time. Always that range.
Right. Subprime 493, 577, 618. These are real people. I did this with a dealer. They only pulled one bureau, and they would quote a payment off the hard pull. And they touted themselves like, listen, we can get the customer to give us that information. We're really good. We train on how to get a credit application early in the process. Well, that doesn't happen all the time. You can say that it does.
No, it doesn't.
How many people push back?
Well, not only that, it's expensive. If you got a high volume store, that's extremely, extremely expensive to pull all three bureaus.
Right. Yeah, we'll get into that for sure. So going off the way they would quote it, it would be a 556 payment. Ran it through the system with all of their banks. This was day one of enrollment. Came back 505 with max markup. Right. It's capitalizing not just on the score, but on the bureau. And I'll get into that in a minute. Okay. Now, subprime case study, this person, a little deeper profile on the prime person. They had a mortgage, they had an auto, things were good, high detail. Yeah. Right. Subprime person, opposite. They had two trade lines that were charged off for less than $300, and a credit card that was established for the last 6 months with a $350 balance, $500 limit. So they would have quoted that person 25%, which is the state max in New York.
Yeah.
Ran through their system, local credit union. It's actually a state credit union. Buy, sell. So there is no markup, but the rate's 8.9. And they actually approved it. We ran through the system and got approved. Mm-hmm. The difference in finance charges is $13,000. You know, often I would see people going into $20,000 loans and the finance charges are almost the same.
It's terrible.
And if you don't know every program, it's hard. And then some people are going to get 25%. The system's not going to do it every single time. Unfortunately, you know, if you've been through hard times and you've had a repossession, things like that will occur. But the simple quote can't just be off the FICO. So much more that goes into it, right? And how many things do you think about when you quote the first pencil? I asked that person, and it's really very little. They think about how can they overcome the objection that they're about to get when they present the pencil. There's such a lack of confidence because they have such little data on deriving that first payment that we spend hours on Saturdays training our salespeople to fight that first pencil objection when we should be training them on how we derived it. And we're really full disclosure and transparent to our people. And that's what I wanted to try to build. So I'll actually show you a bit.
So this is you. That's your why.
That's exactly it.
Got
it. I wanted to do it in a way that's scalable inside the dealership. So have different users doing different things, but also to start more of a compliant way to do it. Because right now the regulatory scrutiny it's high. I mean, look at dealerships have been lenders for almost 14 years now, but not until Nathan came down. You know, it's almost been 2 years now. You know, it was in April of 22. It's the first time that FTC took action against a dealership. That's scary.
Yes.
It's not only the fines. I mean, $10 million when you have 49 stores, it's a lot of money, but you're going to survive. But being labeled in any kind of format, and I know a lot of dealer principals that are good people, and it's a lot of that is unintentional. It's not properly documented.
It's lack of process.
It's lack of process, and then also, I mean, how are you going to do it if you don't start out right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you see my screen now?
Yep, I got you.
Okay. So I'll actually show you the software. The idea is to be very simple, low friction to the customer, but also adhere to the process that you want at your dealership. I don't care what you sell. If you sell widgets, staplers, cars, software, everybody manages everybody by the CRM, right? It's like the source of truth of what you've been doing. Yes. It's not a CRM. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. And unfortunately, a lot of things don't always end up in the CRM.
Right. So it's like, well, it's on the CRM. I'm not going to give you
we put certain things in the CRM because we want our closing ratio to look better than it actually really is.
Right. So I said, okay, let's take that and let's take that as a premise. And then if we're going to quote a payment to a customer, you know, what do we need?
Yeah, we lost your. Okay, let me pull it back up again because it just disappeared. Okay, here we go. It disappeared. It came back.
Change screen to the demo.
Okay.
And so it's very simple. You're going to put someone in the CRM. You need their name, date of birth, address. Right? Goes CRM. So that's what we need to initiate the first part of the process. And so our platform will soft pull the customer using that basic info. Help quote a payment using the inventory at the dealership in every lender in a profitable compliant payment. So really, we just want simple questions. So as soon as that person, it can be via text or email, QR code, or we can start online on the VDP page of the dealership.
Got it. So those are the ways that you can actually capture the data. And I'm going to guess that you probably, when you install this in stores, you train people how to do this, right?
Right.
And how to overcome objections. Because some people walk in, wait a minute, I'm only going to give you my first name. My name is Todd, and I want to buy a car, and I'm not telling anything else until I drive the car first, and you tell me what my trade is worth, and you tell me what my payments are. So like you have to sometimes overcome that objection. So it has to be trained. And if you make it simple with a QR code or something like you're saying, or make it part of your process, it probably helps, I would think.
Exactly. And we've done, you know, I've got a great marketing team. Chris Lacey's our CMO. He just does a phenomenal job with any pieces. And it's feedback from the dealers.
And so it's what the dealer wants. Because when I first looked at this product, I'm like, wait a minute, you know, every dealer kind of has a different way that they, dealers work. There's a dozen different CRM systems out there. How do you enter your customer into the showroom? And I was like, wait a minute, if this is another thing or another widget, it might make it a challenge. But it looks like to me you've reworked the software a little bit to make it how the dealer wants it as part of their process.
Exactly. So I have salespeople that, listen, I'll go to the store and they're like, this is great, I want it. But Gus over there, he's been with me for 89 years. He's 180 years old. He's not
still
doing
selling
anything.
cars.
He's still selling cars. So we'll create a tagged QR code just for him. Put a little table tent that explains that there's no impact, basic info. The customer will scan that on their phone. It'll pop up, name, address, date of birth. They sign up on their They sign up on their.
So that's interesting. Not only can you tailor it for the dealership, you can tailor it for individual salespeople in the dealership too. For just that perfect example, for maybe the young techie kid, right? Or the old car guy or old car girl that's been doing it her way for a long time. I think that's brilliant. That's a great idea.
Right. We're doing campaigns as well. So if you want a marketing campaign, email, text, or mail piece, we'll do any QR code and tag it and see how it's a campaign. But this is what we get from the data, though. So this is from the VDP of the car. They picked up this Tacoma. So we just asked that basic, simple question: name, address, date of birth. Now, if you go in the CRM, that's what's in there: name, address, date of birth. And we integrate to most CRMs. We're preferred partners to, Vin Solutions, eLeads, Dealer Socket. We're working out with Techion to do some new inspiring things.
What about Drive Centric? Are you with Drive Centric yet or no?
We're working with them right now. I just actually have some dealers in Arizona that use them. So.
Yeah, because there's a lot of dealers that are starting to use that CRM.
Right.
And this is a soft pull, correct?
This is a soft pull.
Right. And we all know a soft pull is a lot less money than a hard pull.
So right now, Todd, the way that we can run this, and we realigned their agreement, average, if you ran all three bureaus, it's around $20 for all three with FICO, surcharges, and the bureau. If you have a soft pull and we do realign your program, it's a little over $5. And it's extremely important. I would say this all the time when I was live in stores. If you look at one bureau, you're missing something.
Totally agree.
Lenders look at different bureaus.
Yep.
They have different calculation methods. Some average them, some average two. It's important you look at all three. One out of every 5 bureaus has a discrepancy. So this is the data that'll come over. So this person's 735, 715, 705. It's also important that you are protecting your dealership in many ways. Privacy is really important, but also not everyone who is who they say they are. And fraud,
especially in this day,
big deal right now.
I'm hearing horror stories from not just my clients, but other dealers that are friends of mine. Horror stories about fraud, especially on like these online deals.
Right. So we've added OFAC, ID1, red flags, and synthetic fraud to every transaction in store or online or through campaigns.
That's great.
So we really want the lead to make sense, right? You don't want to, if Bob Jones goes online and he doesn't pull up any credit information, it's probably not really Bob Jones. It's probably some fake person. On our lead source, it's going to pull their bureau, their ID1 OFAC, and if it confirms it's a good lead, call them. And this is the data we'll get.
When you say it's a lead source, because you can put your, let's call it a widget, right? You could put your widget on a VDP, or put your widget in a store, however you want it, as part of your process. So it's an opportunity. It's either an online opportunity, which is a lead, or an opportunity that's in your store, which is technically an appointment or an up.
Exactly. And that came from dealer request. Someone had a button on their website. It was a very large bank. They were getting a lot of leads at the beginning. Then they started charging them a lot more, and their leads started to drop. And we actually replaced that button with our lead source, having no impact to credit, and it's taken off.
That's awesome.
Some of our stores are getting 6 to 8 leads a day. So, but this is the data that comes back from the soft pull. So you'll show the score. All the data is exactly the same.
And the sales manager can see this. The F&I manager can see it, right?
Right. Whoever you want to give access to.
Okay.
I've got stores that are single point of contact. And so that salesperson does everything.
So do they get an alert? Like like how do they know that somebody did this in the showroom that they need to go in and actually like look at this?
Remember, it goes right into their CRM.
It goes right to, okay, I gotcha.
Right. It goes right in their CRM, but whoever sends the link out as well, you get a text confirmation. Now the customer gets confirmation too, because we want to do it in a compliant manner.
Yeah.
That text confirmation or email that when the customer fills it out, it's a signed PDF of your privacy statement, electronic signature disclosures, all consents. So we can actually start talking via text or email. And I will tell you right now, I'll go to a dealership and I'll ask them, when do you sign privacy statements? They're like, we don't do that.
Yeah, or we do it at delivery.
Do it at delivery. Well, you're at a 20% closing ratio. That's not good.
Yeah.
So you can see this person's Ally Bank, $399.99 payment. They owe a little over $24,000. Opened in 2020. Paid it well. The prior vehicle was a 4. They paid one time, $30, but same payment. We can list everything the same, but we want to make it simple. We read all 3 bureaus the same and translate it.
Mm-hmm.
Being in a dealership for that long, you realize a lot of people don't know how to read credit. So we wanted to make it really simple. And then we also show inquiries, because in the lending environment right now, past inquiries are a big internal downgrade right now. You have excessive inquiries in the last 6 months and you have a good score, you're going to tear down.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's extremely frustrating to a finance manager, sales manager. So we're trying to integrate that into their process to get them realizing it. But we also look at open trade lines, charge-offs, how long they've been on the bureau. 730 that's been in the bureau for 2 months with 2 trade lines is not the same as the 730 that's been on it for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then how much they have revolving and their total balance. We read all 3 bureaus the same. And we show the dealer so that they're comfortable. But at the same time, our system is now analyzing the 3 credit reports, not just the score, but every point of data. And it's now taking that customer, and our AI functionality has analyzed it. Then we look at the collateral, because it's not just the age of the vehicle that matters, right? Dealers have 20, 30 lenders. They all lend in a different environment, different calculation methods. So this person right here, well, I'll give you this. I'll put you on the spot because you're going to put me more on the spot, right?
Okay, yeah.
It's a 2018 Toyota Tacoma.
Yeah.
65,000 miles. You just saw the guy's credit. His name is Steve Johnston. It's a fake person, though. 735, 715, 75. For a 60-month payment, what rate would you quote?
Probably in this day and age, with rates they got 10%.
And you're telling your salesperson what when you give them that pencil? All right, here's the rates, 10%. This is the payment. What's the guidance to the salesperson?
Here's a 60-month payment, 66-month payment, 72-month payment. I'd give it to them probably 3 different ways. And you print it out for them on a sheet, depending if you're using eLead or you're using whatever you're using, and you bring it out.
So I'll show you how our system then looks at the collateral. Because loan to value.
And you got to remember too, I may be wrong at 10%. It's just a guess for me. Since
okay.
I haven't been to showroom now in a couple of years. So but thank you for putting me on the spot.
Listen, I do this to everybody.
Good.
And then you'll see how we might get a different idea after this, right?
Sure, good.
Because what's it worth? That's how the bank looks at it.
Mm-hmm.
So for many generations, we've looked at it. What's the score? What kind of car is it? How old is it? What's the term? Lenders look at 100 different data points. And that's what our system does. It analyzes all those points to determine the payment. Because this car has got an LTV of almost 130%.
Just like every other used car right now because the market's so strong.
Right. And look how volatile. I mean, you could have a stated front end guideline saying they're going to give 120. I look at the data coming back. Some of these banks that will give 120 max front end, 140 off the door, are giving like 106 front end. So we would quote this rate at 13.48 through Santander's prime program. Now, and then Westlake at 14.49. Now we have conditional lenders, because the mistake that we make right now, Todd, is We don't guide enough on cash down because we don't look
Mm-hmm.
at structure. We do 500, 1,000, 2,000,
Yeah.
60, 66, 72.
Yeah.
Right. And
Just
then
like
the
I said.
salesperson goes out and tries to explain it all.
Yeah.
It could be kind of confusing, but we don't look at the value. So if this customer put down $1,053, their payment would go down $100 from this quote. It's easy to explain to a customer. So instead of showing multiple terms and cash down, we can show multiple banks for different reasons.
So this right here is customer facing, what you're showing me now?
It could be. This is actually dealership facing, but a lot of our dealers are having it where the salespeople can see this view.
Okay. Got it.
But let me show you something too. Now this is a full manager access, right? Because the whole deal needs to win in order for this to work.
Yeah.
If the dealer principal knew everything about the banks and they quoted every payment because they made front and back end money, and you got aggressive, but enough where everyone was eating good, you would close more deals. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Inside of all these rates, now this is another compliant form that we do. When we program this, we're looking non-biased. I don't care what the customer looks like. I look at all their credit. I look at every guideline from every bank and every rate. Even if rates aren't published, we create our own rates based on historical data and recent transactions. But then you tell me, hey, I'm going to use the fair desking policy that NADA recommends, and my max markup is going to be 2. So 200 basis points on every deal. We program that. That's the first pencil. Then if you come off of it, you can deviate and fill out a form. So in here, this is how much more front end you'd have left. You could sell another $3,000 at front end.
Mm-hmm.
Markup profit's $1,993. If you take a flat, it's $350. The back end's $4,500. Not profit, but allowable product sales.
Yeah.
And then these are the products you can sell. Then we'll list if there's any additional advantage, if there's a funding contact or credit contact, the best way to get a hold of them. Because there's a lot of churn at dealerships right now. And training on lending is really difficult.
Especially with F&I people, there's a ton of it.
Right. People are making, 67, 70% of what they were making last year. So you'll see that churn. So that was the idea though, Todd, is give them everything. Because on a prime person, do you know how many times you're within a quarter point, but the back end's wildly different? Or if you have to take a flat, who pays 1%, 2%, who flats per 1,000? That's all programmed every single time on these deals.
Got it.
So you can make the best decision, not just for the customer, but for the dealership. I would say constantly. I'm like, why did you go with that bank if you would have it's the same rate? They're paying 2.5% and you just got a $100 flat instead, right? Or back end policy. I mean, the deal doesn't stop at the first payment quote, right? Nor does it stop when it goes to the bank. It's got to get funded. And if you're over advanced, what is front, what is back is really important. And I would get a lot of calls. Hey, can you call this bank for me? It's held up in funding. I'm like, why? Oh, it's over advanced. Nope. You can easily.
Why is the car burning gas to begin with?
Right. But you can see this example is real. So what we'll normally do is no one would quote Santander in a 735 at 13 before. They wouldn't do that, right? They wouldn't think that way. They would go BOA 9%, 10%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they would be thinking. They'd be thinking, okay. They'd be thinking, all right, this is a prime person. Let's get it over the curve. Then it goes in the submission to the bank. BOA cuts at 1,053. What does the dealer do? They usually will massage the deal, right? Hey, well, I was holding 750 more on the trade than I told you anyways. Yeah. So let's do that. Let's little cut, nip and tuck.
Yep.
You know how many times that happens a day in a dealership and how much money that adds up to? Or if you do quote too high. I had a dealer that said they quote everyone at 14%. I said, you have to have tremendous cash. He's like, yeah, we're 50% cash. I said, why do you think that is? We're in a nice area. I said, no, you're blowing these people out of the water.
I agree.
So it's balance. You want it too high, too low, you'll lose transactions. Average dealership that's selling 100 transactions a month is losing 4 to 6 per month by quoting regularly. Difference between quoting too high or internal friction. and the deals are blowing up because they're taking too long. So after that, though, we can two-way communicate to some CRMs and actually boost the payment in. Some we have to print from there. But now the customer is important, right? It took us.
So wait, let me stop you there. What do you mean by that? So you communicate with CRMs, and say it one more time and explain it.
Right. So some of the CRMs we don't talk back to. We push the lead into. Then you take our data. You can print from our screen, or you can print from theirs. Right. Some of them we're actually working on communication, where we will be talking to the CRM and you won't leave the CRM.
Okay, I got you. So if you're desking through, if you're desking it through the CRM,
right?
Got it.
The sales managers don't like to leave the CRM. Finance managers never go into the CRM, so that they'll be in our system. But when they're doing something, it's updating the CRM so that everyone's on the same page.
Gotcha.
That's communication is huge for speed.
I totally agree.
You got to talk and not leave your seat if you want to get things quicker. And then after that, same thing. So it takes, on average, the average quote for us, and now we haven't gone to the bank. We create a database of lenders on every lender, programmable, specific for the dealership. So our algorithm in predictive lending AI, it takes 8 seconds to do a quote. It takes the customer 15 seconds to give us the data. Now after that, and once we're good with the payment, you might have to show another term. We have a rework the deal button right here. You can change cash down, you can change term. You can also change cars. Maybe the car doesn't make any sense. The payment's way too high. You can flip 15 vehicles. I was at a dealership. This lady was in service. She has a transmission problem. It's not done yet, but it's pretty close to being blown. She was $9,000 negative, 690 credit score. This is day one of launch of one of our Chevy stores locally.
Yeah.
They changed structure 18 times within 9 minutes and showed different vehicles, different payment options. It never went to the bank, but it kept on showing them what could happen. I asked them what would normally happen without using our tool. He said, honestly, I would send it to the bank. I'd hard pull her, send it to the bank. It would get declined. I would show her all the red arrows and tell her she needs to come sign. And I said, would that work? Not really, but I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste hers or mine. This is a woman, her transmission's going to blow.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have the money to pay for it, and it doesn't make sense. The car's not worth it. We want to try to solve for those problems, right? So you could flip a million different things in your inventory, restructure it, it reworks it, it runs the algorithm. It still has no impact to the bank.
So are you getting a data feed with the dealer's inventory as well?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. We have a live integration to all of their inventory, new, used, and in transit. So if you have a car coming in, it's at port, and you're trying to work a lease payment or retail payment, we're getting that vehicle as well.
So you've got access to all the rebate information, all of the live incentive changes. You have it all,
right?
Okay.
Yeah, we have every OEM, which is fun with all the, lease tax rules and upfront charges, because our tax is live integration as well, right? So our tax is based off the consumer. And every state's a little different. I was just in Arizona. It's based off where the dealership is, not where the consumer lives. If you're in New York State, it's based on where the consumer lives. And then there's EV credits. It's all programmable inside here. We try to automate as much as possible, so it just populates right from the VIN, right from the straight VIN. And then on the used car value, they're booked out, recognizing what banks use what book value and what calculation method. We also program special programs. It's our biggest advantage. You might have a first-time buyer program at a bank, a captive, credit union, and you might not know about it. Well, that will pop up. And there's limiting guidelines. So right now, there's first-time buyer programs. You don't have to have credit, but they'll cap you at a $25,000 car. But the rates are really aggressive. If that pops up as a conditional, say you're on a $40,000 car, it'll tell you you're 10 grand away. So then you just rehash it to a cheaper car, and it'll put you in the guideline. And then we go back to the customer, because I hate redundancy as a consumer. Like, you already got my name, address, and date of birth. Why are you asking me for it again? right? But that's the way we do it, either in a paper application or online format. So what we did was we just did another app pre-populated. So you can text the customer, a quick app. It's already got their name, address, date of birth, whatever they gave us.
Yeah.
Now we're going to grab their social. We're going to grab where they work. We also programmed with Google, as soon as you start typing in your place of employment, as long as it's on Google and it's verifiable, it pulls up a verifiable address and a verifiable phone number. Because I cannot tell you how many times a consumer will make an error and put the wrong number down. Then you're stiff for VOE, or you're stiff for POR if you did put your address in right. So we pull your address as well from Google, because the deal's not done until it's funded.
Yeah, see, here's the thing here's what's smart about this too, right? The fact that you have 11 years just being an F&I manager to being an F&I director, and all these different things that can happen in a dealership you've tried to solve for, and it looks to me like you solve for most of them, because you have to be extremely efficient, especially in a high volume store. And the better experience you give a customer, I think the more efficient that an F&I manager can be, and the sales managers, which is going to make the salesman more efficient too.
Right. That's what we want to help dealers with.
Yeah.
And
so
really,
the only thing I want to say, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, is what I've found over the years, and a lot of times, is software gets made by people that weren't like you, right? Or people like me, right, that just, they're made by these developers that never sold a car in their life, or never worked in an F&I office, or people that never even maybe bought a car, for God's sakes, right? So like, this is really, really, really smart, really smart.
You know, it's been so much fun. Our developers are all in Buffalo. So when I started the product, I had a local company, and then they shifted me overseas. I was done. I said, if I'm going to start a company locally, I want to have local people where I can walk in the room and we can have trainings and they can understand it more. And I will tell you, I got 7 developers right outside my office right here that are all based here. These folks know more about the dealership, the world now, than a lot of dealership employees. Because their appetite to learn is just tremendous. Mm-hmm. And it's been fun, teaching them. But we whiteboard every day. I look at the way results come in. I look at functionality. I've got a great team with me too, that just everyone's pulling together to make sure this product just gets better and better. But when I was building this out, I did it, in the morning on a walk. I'm walking my dog slowly. I think about all the phone calls I got the night before, and I'd have a note section in my phone. Yeah. And I would put features. And I will tell you, we're nowhere near being done with all the features that we're going to do eventually. But it's always going to be the same kind of format where it's going to be dealership facing. And I think that's the key.
What I like too is from a perspective of let's call myself a car guy.
Yeah, I would say you're a car guy.
Yeah, but I know the mentality of people that work in car dealerships. You're an F&I manager or sales manager. You got like 10 different tabs open. You got dashboards going on. You got a lot going on. And some of the software that gets designed in our business might look pretty, but it isn't like practical at the end of the day. Like, it's not practical for a guy who's in a store every day working deals or hanging paper. Like, yours is simple. I like it. I mean, it's not super pretty, but it doesn't need to be. It's just, I don't know. It just, to me, it makes sense.
I tell everybody, I want to be the engine, not the car.
Mm-hmm.
If I can be a really good engine, that's what you need, because we're non-consumer facing. So yeah, I have 7 developers. I have 1 front-end guy, and everyone else does all back-end stuff, because I just want those integrations so it works seamlessly to your current environment. But I want to get your process to what you want it to be and help you be efficient, but down on time. Right? Because so we integrate to Route 1 and DealerTrack. So when we send that link back, then it goes back in, you pick the banks you want, it talks to Route 1 and DealerTrack. And from that, it's a simple way to submit it, because typing, so we're putting in the entry on the consumer. Other people are letting the consumer pick their payment and pick their bank. I think that's crazy. I'd rather have them type in the stuff that I don't want to type in. And I never thought typing a deal into Route 1 was a skill set, right?
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was ridiculous. So now we put it on the consumer and we double check it. But we have guardrails too. So you ever had a deal where they say they make $1,000, $500 a month, and they're a CEO of XYZ company because they fat fingered something, or they make 90 grand a week? We have guardrails that'll stop them. So if it's too low or too high, we'll ask them, is this correct? Not the consumer, the dealership employee. Same thing with social, if it's off digits and things of that nature. We have these checks so that we have cleaner applications going directly into Route 1 and dealer track. So that's a quicker. I would see it all the time, Todd. Someone would call me on a deal. I mean, I had a lot of phone calls on a lot of deals because it's so many people. And I'd say, well, what's wrong with this, this M&T bank? They're like, it's declined. I said, no, it's a red arrow, but they need POR because the address was input wrong. The rate's going to be half of everybody else, half of LA because it's a higher LTV, but it's good customer. Oh, I didn't see that. They would have delivered that car without reading the note. Happens all the time. So we wanted to filter that in. Right.
This brings back some memories.
Right. And we live them every day. And it's what do you know? So this is like we talked about before. Also, any kind of campaign that the dealer wants to do, we'll provide them QR codes and links. I have a dealer right now that's doing a subprime campaign through Vin Solutions. Yeah. So we give them a link and they texted it out. Their best the responses are their customers via text.
So you could do an email blast. You can have this set up on your website on a VDP or an SRP. Right. Even if you wanted to do an old school, let's call it, a mailer, right? You could put it in a mailer with a QR code or okay.
And it all filters through your CRM, and then it also will go into our system as well. And then the reporting is everything, because if we're not helping dealers make money, we're irrelevant. And I didn't do all this, with our great team here to get canceled. So we want to prove the ROI. So we'll show them a lot of metrics. We'll show them metrics on their actual conversions of the leads, because we integrate to Route 1 and dealer track. So I can show you, all right, this lead came in and it went down the funnel. It came in, we worked the deal, we sent the app back to them, and it went and got approved by the bank. And if it didn't, I can show you by user when it fails. Because you cannot get better if you don't know your failure, right? And then you want to feed your success rates too. What are you really good at? Feed those and change your failures from a process standpoint.
Do you have any integration with third-party listing sites like cars.com or Car Gurus or Auto Trader?
We're working on some of those right now.
Okay.
No, we launched live really in June.
Okay.
Right.
June of 23?
June of 23. Yeah, we tested before that. Live. Right. And
I think I met you, November last year? November, right. December? I think it was I first saw this. And I'll tell you what, it's come a long way in a very short period of time. Now, I believe you when you say you have 7 developers like in the next office over. Like I can see why, because there's a lot more here.
Right. And I think we're gaining 3 more in June that we're finalizing right now. I mean, that's our growth. We're in a growth mode. We're a software company, first and foremost, helping dealers. Yeah. We do have quite a consulting approach based on just what we've done in the past, right? It's hard for me to walk in a dealer and not, give my 2 cents at times, right? On how I would help.
So I think I asked you this before when I first saw this, because I thought of this when I was talking to you, and I think we might have talked about it once after the fact, but couldn't you go back in and use your software to analyze every deal that already got delivered to see if for some reason an F&I manager left money on the table because we picked the wrong bank?
Yeah. Yeah, you certainly could.
So
there's a lot that could be done. It could do it. No one's doing it yet.
Okay.
But I will tell you, they're doing a lot more now than they used to. So this is some of just the analytics you'll really see. This is more, leads generated, customers response, the predictions, app started. And I can tell by the funnel of if there's time delays. But then I want to analyze the banks as well.
Mm-hmm.
What is truly the minimum, the max, the average rate by the lender? Because how many times are we using lenders because that's who we trust at the source? I'd have it.
I'll tell you,
I'd
I'd be
have
using
it.
this if I'm an F&I manager and a bank rep walks in. Hey, how come you only gave me 5 deals last month? What's going on here? Well, here's why you only got 5 deals. So here's what you gave us, and here's what we were offered with other banks too. You need to talk to your underwriters and figure out why you missed the deals, because this is where the business is going.
Right. So we can actually show offers by lenders. All those reports really simple. I mean, then we can even break down by person. I can show by salesperson average FICO score of your consumer. And then we're working on time sales analysis too that we'll have out next week. I can show you how long it takes for you to get a deal from start to finish. From VDP, in store, wherever. I've got a dealership right now that's so focused and they're so ingrained in using the software. I'm so blessed to have them. And they're a 3-star group that's local.
Yeah.
And they're 53 minutes from start, like the customer's first engagement.
Yeah.
So the deal is totally approved and done in finance.
Wow.
And that's on average.
That's great.
So sometimes they're over the phone, right? Sometimes they're in person. So.
And you can measure it by salesperson, by F&I manager, by sales manager,
by everybody.
Wow, that's great. Because that's the goal at the end of the day. Like, you don't want to blow people in and out, but you want to give people an efficient experience when they come into the dealership. And even from a marketing perspective, there's a lot of dealers that say, you can buy a car from us in an hour. Well, now you can actually prove it.
Right.
Most people are stuck in car dealerships for hours. They're there. Their kids are running around. They're there 3, 4, 5 hours in a lot of cases. It drives consumers nuts. That's why they'll go and buy a car in Carvana or somewhere else, because they don't want to deal.
Right. And in the Carvana model and those models, they have such a lack of banks. That's an edge that I always wanted to have. I want to program every single bank you have, every credit union, every regional, every captive. So you're not missing on that opportunity. And those big consumer-facing products, they can't do that. And the dealerships rely on localized lenders, and the community does too. Having a strong community-based bank is really important for a dealership environment for making money.
I totally agree.
We sell to dealerships,
totally
not to
agree.
people buying cars. But I buy cars too.
So let me ask you a couple more questions before we finish up. So first of all, how many dealers are using it now?
Right now, we have over 30 groups right now.
All right. So how many? Is it 30 rooftops or groups?
We have over 30 rooftops, but some groups we have 2 out of 15. Right, because we just started. We actually started selling in December, end of November.
Okay. So you got 30 roofs now. I imagine probably some of the pipeline.
We just closed. I'm blessed to say this. We just closed 11 this week, so that aren't on yet.
Wow.
So yeah, we are making good traction.
Okay.
We're really blessed to have the results so far.
What do you charge a dealer for this service?
It depends on their size. Depends on the size and user.
So give me a rough idea.
It averages around $1,400 a month.
Okay.
It's a little less or more. It includes integrations.
And then what does the implementation process look like? How long does it take? And then training?
Average, it takes about 2 weeks after contract for implementation. It's a lot of lift on the developers for integration and testing. Training is 2 days where we have an implementation team come out, they roll out, have meetings.
So it's in store,
and then they stay there. And it's important that they're seeing transactions. So we don't want to leave until there's transactions that are put through, even though we test transactions. Then they come the next day, and then they have a follow-up cadence, and then we have a reporting cadence communication. But I'll tell you right now, I have great Wes Sendham's my product manager, and him and Drew Dorn's our CEO, and Matt's our CFO. Our team is out there in the stores right now. And right now, I have people in stores that aren't current customers, just spending a couple hours there to see how the product is being worked to see if we can make some better changes. What's good, what's bad. Because just because I did it for a long time doesn't mean anything, right? The environment's changed. We want to stay current on what's working and what we should be moving towards.
No, it's just great. You know what I like? I like seeing like young, scrappy companies. Like that was why you and I kind of got along when I first met you. Remember, I told you, like, you're a scrapper, man. Like you're a fighter. Like I love this. He's upstate New York. He knows what it's like to broom cars, and
right.
And you're building a software company, and you've lived in a dealership environment, which tells me I think you're going to see a lot of success. If you don't mind sharing, with the audience that we're going to have, didn't you guys just do a raise recently? Did you just raise some money?
Yeah, we did. And we had some really good interest. Before that, I did a lot of self-funding to build it, which could get very expensive. But yeah, we did a small raise. Well, we started a small raise, so we just closed our pre-seed round a little over $4 million. Pre-seed.
Great.
Yeah. So
that's great. So what's your goals? I mean, we're in April now of 2024. Where do you want to be in 6 months from now? Where do you want to be by the end of the year?
Yeah. So we're in. I always push a little harder than most people. You could probably tell. So we wanted to be 100 rooftops by the end of the year, but now my goal is to be by the end of the summer.
Okay, there you go. I like it.
Well, we got some good interest. We've got some new recent groups that I didn't put on target for this year because they were a little too big, I thought, and ended up getting early traction after a meeting. Everyone told me those are groups that take a year or two to get into, and we were blessed to have the right team around. We got good people here. We end up getting traction.
And how do you provide support, and how do you share with the dealers that are now using your service, product enhancements? From what you're telling me, it seems to me like you're adding different stuff all the time, and you're doing things for dealers if they ask for custom things. How does that work? So
people thought I was crazy, and that's why I raised a lot of money, because we already had the product done.
Yeah.
I said, and our team agreed, we're not going to go heavy into sales. We're going to have a couple dealers, and we're going to have a lot of employees. So at one time I had, I think, four dealers, and I had 19 employees being trained, and all department heads. These are directors of the department that I hired first. So I went the opposite of everyone else that gets young people and pays them little. I wanted veteran people, and not just the industry. So we have a lot of car people here that have that inside knowledge as well, not just in sales. So we have a director of customer success. I have an implementation team. They were all built with very little income coming in. And the whole point is, as we grow, they can grow the teams as well. So we want to be responsible. I mean, churn's inevitable; it happens. But of course, we want to do it. We want to give this dealer support, and nobody's perfect. So it's about response time. If something's not right, or if there's an idea, don't just give them lip service and listen. Do something about it. Right? If you want to, or tell them we're not going to. Don't lie. Don't say it's coming out in the future if it's not. Right?
Is there any product out there in the market? Like, who would you say is your competition?
A lot of competition is consumer facing, where they want the customer to kind of do their own thing. And the rates and guidelines are, like AutoFi has function like that.
Yeah.
And but we've luckily displaced them locally in a couple of stores. They weren't really, the data was, what is your score from the customer?
Mm-hmm.
It's not good. And then
have you put this in front of any OEMs yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
We wanted to have more of a mass
before
we got there in data.
Gotcha. Yeah, you'll get there. Yeah, you'll get there. You'll get there for sure.
And then
why don't you do me a favor, if you would? Pull your website up one more time, and I want to put it back up on the screen for everybody that's watching this to see.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on too. This is an honor to be your first.
Well, this is the first one, man. Like,
this is the first one.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see what kind of feedback we get from people.
I promise you I won't be the last. I mean, you know everybody. This is an honor.
Like I said, I hope that just people got to learn really more than anything else today. So yeah, here it is. It's selectfi.com. There it is on the screen. And there's your phone number front and center on your website with a request a demo button right there.
My email's tom@selectfi.com too. So if anyone wanted to drop me a line, love to meet with anybody and hop on a Zoom or hop on a plane.
Absolutely. Good.
For sure.
Is there any question that I did not ask you that you wanted to include while we're talking right now, or no?
No, I appreciate your time. This has been great.
Good.
You know,
well,
hopefully I can get back on the show.
Yeah.
Right. I'm already trying to get back, Todd.
Yeah. Well, of course you are, because you're a closer. yeah, you're a closer. I look at I love entrepreneurs, right? I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I think it's great that you came up with a solution that is definitely 100% needed, and I hope that you continue to have some success here. And you just so we're clear, right? You didn't pay me to be here today. I don't have any kind of investment in your company. Like, this isn't some puff piece like you get in some magazine or something like that.
Right.
I'm not getting founding shares, or like, this is real. And that's really why I wanted to do this more than anything else.
Right.
I mean, I may be doing this in the future with some companies that I have invested in or have more of a relationship with, but that's not the case here. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that, and it's not the goal of this at all.
I appreciate it, Ted. Thanks for all your.
Well, I appreciate your time today. I really do. This has been awesome. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. And good luck to you on the new series.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Bye-bye.